Hello, my friends, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's quite symbolic. 2 years ago, it was the first time that I came to Riyadh to curate the Global AI Summit for the Good of Humanity under the patronage of the Crown Prince. And we launched the movement for ethical AI, for AI that serves humanity. When we reflect all of the dimension, including now what we can do in terms of education, healthcare, infrastructure, in terms of the next frontiers of investments, innovation, and research, and never ethical consideration and policy. And today, I'm coming back to continue this movement because for me, this movement never stopped. My name is Yonah Welker, and I'm focused on AI, algorithm systems, and technologies encompassing human capacity, ability, cognitive sensory impairments, medical and educational technology. And my role is better to describe as being technology ambassador because I connect ecosystems such as the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the United States, European Commission, funds and projects in the Middle East, on one hand, curating and evaluating technology, but at the same time, working on policies, curriculums, adoption frameworks with the UNESCO, World Health Organization, OECD, more specific guidelines driven by the governments to make it more accessible. And this year was special for us because the European Union issued the Artificial Intelligence Act, the first type of a legislation which promote the risk-based approach. And we work with our counterparts in the Middle East, Asia Pacific, United Kingdom, United States, to connect the dots, to better understand not only the risks, but possibilities of AI to serve everyone. And finally, I work on humanitarian projects. Like we work on the Global AI Summit 2 years ago, AI Manara Museum, humanitarian hackathons and initiatives using computer science to connect countries, bring peace, bring support. But today, I will talk about my specific focus of work, is the spectrum of disabilities. Why is it important? It's because if humanity can support people with disabilities, systems and algorithms which we create for them will serve everyone, every nation, every classroom, every hospital. And today, there's over 1.6 billion of people with disabilities. It is important to remember that it's not a monolith. It's a spectrum of a cognitive, sensory, physical impairments, which also affected by such thing as intersectionality. It includes ethnicity, gender, age, and we put all these things into the data, into the research development process. And another thing is the invisible disabilities. At least 1 in 6 people live in one or more neurological conditions, 1 in 7 with the cognitive impairments, and 1 in 4 suffer from diagnosable mental disorder. And AI can serve all of these impairments. So what AI can do? Just recently, we had opportunity to cooperate with the OECD to create the repository of AI technologies serving disabilities. It's over 120 emerging systems, and it encompasses adaptive and personalized assistive technologies, work, learning, accommodation. AI helped to augment smart wheelchairs, geolocation tools. We use generative AI and large language models to turn text into speech into text or to visuals to support different types of impairments, including visual, cognitive, or hearing impairments. And specifically, we find a lot of impact for cognitive disabilities, such as autism, dyslexia, and attention deficit. And I'm personally still the stakeholder in some of these companies developing smart dashboards for children with the autism spectrum, or children with attention deficit. And now we have the whole ecosystem of these startups and companies in United States, in EU, in the Middle East. Few years ago, this ecosystem was disconnected, but now we truly connected together. Smart dashboards, social robotics, and Robokind came to Saudi Arabia 2 years ago. I just read is a solution for dyslexia, or brain power smart glasses, which help to recognize emotions for people who can recognize emotions of their mother or their parents. And finally, we can use AI to help with the hiring, educational solution, schools and workplaces. But what is even more important for everyone? When we build all of these systems, robotics, platforms, apps, we actually support everyone, and with what we call assistive pretext. So, for instance, when we build social companion for a child with a cognitive disability, after that we can build similar products and innovation which help us to, let's say, accommodate emotion impairment, or some other things can be used for a general population or other cases. We also have many examples then solutions built for disability and adaptive learning, after that becoming apps for support reading, learning, classroom technologies. We're same with the language technologies and chatbots, which serve well-being, mental health, and disorders. And finally, we experiment with the experiential technologies, combination of artificial intelligence, of virtual and augmented reality, when we use smart glasses, wearables, expression recognition system to create the new experiences. Another thing, these solutions help us to understand the design of AI better. That's what we call assistive pretext interfaces. For instance, when they built the smart dashboard for children with autism, we have one interface for the mother, for the parent, and another for the child. And we have a different approach to the data input and also to the design. And in this way, we start to think in diverse way about design in general, so we can learn from this area for the different other solutions in healthcare and education. Or creation of AI ecosystems. We have so many presenters today talking about healthcare and neurotechnology. And what is amazing, that AI actually help us to create the modular ecosystems when, for instance, one patient can use the dashboard, wearable tracker, which help to gather some information like a heartbeat, blood pressure, or your eating habits. And at the same time using different type of a social assistant. In fact, when we work on these medical cases, we actually introduce the combination of these technologies. And finally, it also helps us to understand the multisensory nature of humanity. When we start working with children with cognitive and sensory impairments, we see how they can have unique tactile experiences, how they differently see visual or colorful artifacts. And these elements also becoming a part of innovation, which help us to better understand the AI system design and research. And finally, and something which we're able to bring 2 years ago, is a neurofuturism. When we support people with impairments with a completely new type of technologies, such as emotional recognition glasses, robotics hands, we can create completely new type of experiences, arts, dancing, theater, entertainment, and actually fooling humanity deeper. And so, as I've mentioned, over 120 technologies today, at least, around the world, and my pleasure to see how technology, which was developed in Luxembourg, now actually getting acceleration in the Middle East. And we're connecting the bridges between government, between medical funds, between policymakers, helping to better understand not only how to invest in these technologies, but also how to better work on curriculums and adoptions. However, even though AI brings so much opportunity for people with disabilities, with a great power comes a great responsibility. And despite these possibilities, we should understand that every disability is unique. If we talk about physical impairment, a person with disability may lack limbs, have a different body shape, posture, or who are blind are not capable to identify some visual cues, or people with a hearing impairment are not capable to understand the audible cues, or people with cognitive and communication impairments have a completely different communication language style, which is not easily understandable by systems and algorithms. And as a result, AI system can make an errors or lack accessibility for such individuals. For individuals with facial differences or asymmetry, different gesture, gesticulation, speech impairment, specific cognitive or sensory patterns, but at the same time also when person use assistive device, such as a hearing or a visual support, these devices sometimes are not recognizable by the camera, even during the Zoom call, or during the job interview, or at school. So what's happening? We have so much opportunities, but we have these difficulties. What we can do? And there's something which are already happening. It turns robotics and AI companies to be learning companies. And technologists working on such issues such as autism, dyslexia, cognitive and sensory impairments also integrate professionals from bioethics, from education, from children's support to work on the research, curriculums, and adoption to make it more accessible. And just a recent example of oversight, UNESCO, they issued not only recommendation of an ethical AI, but also framework of competency for students and teachers. And we're working on something similar, helping teachers to better understand these tools, understand its intersectional nature, understand how these different modules can interact, how different stakeholders, such as a parent, teacher, child, can be involved using different scenarios of a data input, how we can make the research unique in terms of a visual, hearing, and cognitive parameters, and finally, how we can create the feedback loop and impact assessment, identifying different scenarios of a misuse, avoiding so-called technical fixes, and error automation. And in order to achieve it, we should think about four main elements. The first is the data and access. There is opinion that AI can be biased. In fact, AI can be biased, but society and the data which describe the society can be biased. And the fact many people were excluded from the medical research or particular conditions, or women, or a particular ethnicity, which is why we don't have a data set. Or people who label this data using supervised machine learning bring their own subjectiveness. Or when we use reinforcement learning, there is a limitation of environment. At the same time, the existing models used in healthcare, unfortunately, are more generalized, and the whole nature of AI is to serve broader society and be more efficient. And it's right, it's a good thing, but at the same time, unfortunately, sometimes it's less efficient for smaller groups and categories. The third is a system design. So no matter what type of startups, web camera, or technology we take, they were designed without keeping in mind particular groups of people. So we actually have no information about how we should research these groups. And finally, institutional design and oversight. We have an AI Act in Europe. We work on AI policy in the Middle East. In the United States and the UK, unfortunately, these policies are still not specific for these spectrums. They create generalized vision of risks, unacceptable, high, medium, low risk, but at the same time, they do not specify these groups of people. And we should work together to actually create it. And what is also important, it's happening for so many cases. If we use supervised learning, human error during the selection, labeling, for instance, when we work on smart glasses and we use the labeling of a visual objects and facial patterns. for unsupervised learning is disparities in existing data sets. And we find this case for DNA clustering. And for reinforcement learning, typical for robotics, for social assistant, for robotics which we use for autism spectrum disorder, training environment has a particular errors or limitation, or so-called the reward system limitation. So what we can do now to support every person, to support the humanity. On one hand, we are working on the policy and AI Act, which was introduced by the European Commission, which show us the 4 categories of risks, more specific environments, such as workplaces, education, law enforcement, immigration, is a kind of a signal, first signal, but it's just a beginning. Because our counterparts around the world, in the Middle East, including Bletchley Declaration, we are all coming together in understanding that we need to invest in AI, we should invest in medical technologies, but also in understanding of the curriculums and adoption frameworks. And Bletchley Declaration was a part of it specifically for generative AI. But what can help us even more is a multi-stakeholder cooperation. 2 years ago, Saudi Arabia signed the Declaration of AI Ethics with UNESCO, and just 2 years after that, there is a UNESCO AI Ethics Research Center. And it's a critical work because we can create these frameworks without support of a medical, educational community, and that's why World Health Organization working on generative AI in health, UNESCO, generative AI in education, OECD, applications of AI in labor and economic development, providing more specific cases, limitation, and opportunities. At the same time, 193 countries signed commitment to effectively support and protect children on the web. And now it's also becoming a part of a Digital Services Act in Europe and Online Safety Act in the United Kingdom, and we have a similar discussions and consultation with our global counterparts. And finally, I would love, concluding my session, 2 years ago, I'm coming first to Saudi Arabia, to Riyadh, to cooperate with the SIDAIA, to use my personal story and story of our community as a core of this summit, because human capacity is behind everything. And in a way how we can put the human in the center, we will be able to understand how to create the data, the systems and algorithms, empower schools and hospitals, public spaces, balancing innovation and protection. And finally, accessibility becomes a part of a major economic technology in city frameworks, including Saudi Arabia Vision 2030 and the global cooperation. And now the final word from myself. I was born with a disability, and being self-learner, I was able to connect myself working to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, to the European Commission, to the governments of the Middle East, working on the hundreds of medical and educational technologies. And one lesson which I learned, which we should tell the story to everyone in humanity. And that's why currently we are working not only on technology and policy projects, but also on storytelling, visual and humanitarian projects, showing how soft robotics can help people with the skin impairments or neuropathic pain. How we can use the mother voice to program the social robots and assistant. How we can use this technology to create the orchestra of experiences. And we're working on this visual and storytelling project also in parallel. And it's a part of my personal passion, because initially I was a musician before becoming a technologist. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here, and our journey is just the beginning. Thank you.